Two middle-aged men in Cleveland getting ready to celebrate the Christmas holiday coming up in a few days. Ken Dworsnik and Ted Kringle.
Yeah.
Ted Kringle.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that.
All right, I got to ask you. We're gonna go right into this. You weren't ready for this question. Are you done shopping?
Oh, God, no.
Oh,
No.
I used to shop on Christmas Eve, so I'm not going to say anything to you. Things have changed just because of the ability to order things through your phone now. But
yeah.
God love you, man. It is, by the way, once again, we don't get political on this show. We don't do that. But a lot of people talked about, the inflation that's going on right now. It's going to keep people out of the stores.
Yeah.
I don't know what stores they're not going to, because the stores that I go to, they're all there. Every one of them. Tom, Dick, and Harry. Every one of them are out there running around. It's crazy out there.
Christmas can't be stopped.
My gosh.
So my wife, we're riding home from a hockey game yesterday. I know that's a surprise. And she says, hey, does number one, we number him. Does number one want to get a gift for his brothers?
Oh, you call the boys by a number?
Sometimes
1, 2, and 3?
Numbers.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
And
I like it.
And so she's on speakerphone and he's like, yeah, sure. And she's like, okay, well, here's a couple ideas. What do you think? And he's like, okay. And she's like, okay, we'll think about that for the one. And I'll call you back and we'll talk about a gift for the other kid. She never called back. And then at home, she's like, so did you stop and get stuff for your brothers? I'm like, you never called us back. What? And she's like, well, you didn't go.
You should have known. You were supposed to go.
I go. I mean, what are the parameters for this gift? How much are we spending? What's the deal?
You're asking too many questions. You were just supposed to go there and get it.
Supposed to go. So yeah, it's very confusing. But I'll tell you what's not confusing is our fantasy football league. That's oh boy. So in our playoffs, I was in the playoffs. Mark Schwab, who from 19 News, who has been on our show, was in the playoffs. Ken, not in the playoffs. Ken's wife in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the fourth team, a buddy of ours who went 12-1 this season and only missed a perfect regular season in the last week of the regular season. He lost.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. So Mark Schwab, I was up early on Mr. Schwab, thanks to Jarek McKinnon, who I started because I didn't have anybody else.
Yeah, he went crazy.
Yeah, he did. And Dalvin Cook helped out there a little bit too. And so I got a text from Mr. Schwab that I can't really. Well, let me see if I can read this.
You can edit it.
Yeah, let me
PG-13 edit.
Yeah, let me. Let's see here. Blank McKinnon and blank that blanking blank on the Texans that just gifted KC a win. Bengals need them to lose, but blankety Texans are going to blankety Texans. I can't tweet this, so you're getting stuck with this message. And I responded to that, and I said, tell me how you really feel.
There you go.
And then he came back and beat me 139.7 to 105.7. Now, in the other semifinal between Aowen and this team that almost went undefeated, the margin of victory is 0.3 points. 0.3.
Yes.
Which essentially means 3 yards. Somebody should have run for 3 more yards or caught 3 more yards or something.
Yep.
And no punt intended. The almost undefeated team defeats Great Expectations, Aowen, 103.5 to 103.2. Any chance we can get the coach of the losing team on the podcast for some comments? Is that a possibility?
Oh, I don't know, but I will say that I've never been so intrigued to watch the Cincinnati Bengals play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
And rooting for some guy by the name of Chris Godwin to somehow get a pass caught at the end of the game, which, as you know, didn't happen. Yeah, it was tense.
Yeah.
There was kind of silence after the game, and then it got better.
83 yards and a touchdown, not enough for Mr. Godwin.
No. Nope.
Well,
nope.
I would say perhaps a tight end. Now, let me just point this out. Tight end, Mr. Fryermuth put up a goose egg.
He did.
Mr. Gesicki had 5 yards.
Yeah. So
those
that's
5
not
yards,
like,
those 5 yards would have won you the game.
That would have made the difference. Right.
Yeah. Who would have thought that?
Well, she did have another tight end that got 17 points, but I don't think she would ever play him.
Oh, Mr.
Uzama or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Uzoma, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was tense. We had a tense evening.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking, oh, the Browns aren't playing and things are good. My sister's coming into town with the children. It'll be great. Nope. Little tense. It's okay. Tense. Nobody got hurt. Nothing got thrown. Everything was good. So,
okay. Well, so
we're on to Christmas. We're on to Christmas.
We're on to Christmas. How do you feel about the game this past week? We're on to Christmas. We're getting ready for Christmas. Okay. Well, so there's your fantasy football update. 0.3 of a point push one team to a title position. And the tight end from Dallas, what's his name? Schultz?
Yeah.
1.5
Hogan's
points.
Heroes.
Yeah, 1.5 points.
1.5.
Sergeant Schultz.
Is that your tight end?
No. And Deontay Foreman, 9 yards rushing. Puts you over the top every time.
Yep.
Yeah. Less than a point. So there we go. We'll see. We'll update everybody and see what happens here. So we're on to Christmas, and we're on to the rest of our show here. We've got some overachievers talking about drinking some alcohol.
Wow.
We went out and about this weekend. We're going to talk about it, and it involves more than a hockey rink. Good news for some motorists in Florida who might otherwise have received a ticket. Klopp's clips. You won't believe what cops are looking for in Germany. And a new segment called, what are we calling this? What are you watching? What's on my DVR? We planned this out way in advance.
All of those above. Yes. What odd things are you watching, maybe?
What odd things are you watching this week? Who's our guest this week, Ken?
Bob Ruggieri, filmmaker, local guy who's worked on a bunch of different movies, made movies here in the area. Super exciting. He's actually a classmate of mine, so I'm excited to talk to Bob this week.
That and more straight ahead.
Well, time for one of my favorite segments on our show as we bring in Colin Forgotch with our segment called Kids Speak. Colin is a 6th grader, lives in Sylvania. Colin, how are you? It's been a little while since we've talked to you. We need our sports fix, and I can't think of another person that we could talk to tell us more about Cleveland sports. How are things, my friend?
Pretty good. I'm honored to be on here.
Well, you did such a great job the last time. We had to catch up with you. So I have to follow you on social media. I mean, that's how everybody has to find out what's going on with everyone. And I saw that you recently had the opportunity to go to the Cavs, and I thought it'd be a great time to kind of talk about their season, your experience with the Cavs, and things like that. So you had the opportunity to go to the Cavs game. It was on a Friday night, correct? For Sacramento. Is that what it was? Yes. How was the experience? And talk a little bit about what you saw.
Very fun. We had very good seats. It was like kind of crazy because when you're like kind of like lower down, they're so like the players are like humongous. Yes. So then when you look at them, they're like, wow, like they're like humongous.
Yeah, wow, then you realize, that they're like the 7-foot guys are actually 7 foot, things like that. So talk about, I think, unfortunately, in that game, I think the Cavs lost. But talk about some of the highlights of that contest, and maybe piggyback that with some of the highlights that you've seen so far this year with the Cavs.
Well, sadly, Donovan Mitchell was out, so that was sad.
Yeah,
but Garland, he played pretty decent. LeVert, actually, he played pretty good. He had like he had like 22 in the first half, and then saw Mobley with his random corner threes he starts making.
Garland, he was there, right? He played Garland.
Yeah, Garland, he played pretty decent. He had a slow start in like the first quarter. Second quarter, he started picking up, and then we sat him in the third just to have his energy for the fourth, and then they had great defense in the fourth, and Garland couldn't get anything up.
Recently, as we tape this, Cavs have been playing very well. What do you think are the strengths of the teams? And on one side, and then I'll come back and ask you another question. What do you think the weaknesses are right now?
Well, right now, I think the strengths are, I think when we have our whole team together, our chemistry is so well, like Mitchell and Garland coming together. Darius is more like that point guard that can just shoot deep, but Mitchell is strong enough that he can just like, and then he has insane hops that he can just jump over like some like big center. I think Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, they work so well together because like Jared Allen's that bigger guy that can get the rebounds, but then Mobley is more of that person that can not, I don't want to say a shooter, but he can shoot if he needs to.
Yeah.
And then Jared Allen's that type of guy for like dunks and putback layups and stuff like that. He like with all the rebounds because Mobley sometimes he's like this year when Jared was out, he was kind of struggling at playing center because he's not that size. He's more skinnier.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know he's been working out in the offseason and trying to put on weight. And I do think that's the key to his success. But defensively, both of those guys are really good. As I look at the team overall, Colin, I want to get your 2 cents on this. Maybe some of the weaknesses. I watch, Karis LeVert at times is up and down. But the rest of the bench, and recently you've had like Lamar Stevens, who's gotten some spot starts. Okoro all of a sudden now is playing again. He wasn't playing for a while. But I still think they need a couple pieces, and Ricky Rubio is coming back in January. What's your thoughts? I think one of the weaknesses with the team, I think, is the bench. And what do you think, is there another player out there that they can maybe pick up at a deadline? Or what do you think they're missing off the bench that maybe that could help them as the season goes on?
What I think they're for sure missing is another big man. I think in the draft or something like that, we need to come up because when Jared Allen was out, it wasn't working well with Robin Lopez and Evan Mobley being our centers.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna need to pick up like another good center. That we need in there. Draft one maybe a big man.
Yeah.
I think our bench because our bench players are on and off. Sometimes they'll have good games, other times they'll have bad games. Like a lot of the times, like Lamar Stevens, he that one time had a big game. But then and then Karis LeVert that one time dropped like 40. But lately he hasn't really been doing a lot.
Yeah.
And then I think Chetty Osman is an amazing player off the bench.
I think so too. Yeah.
Kevin Love for the minutes he plays, his 3-pointers, very good free throw shooter.
Yeah.
Not free throw shooter, well that too, but 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we definitely just need to get help on the centers.
Yeah, I would completely agree, and it's kind of tough that Kevin Love got hurt. I know he's been playing, but there was questions if he broke his thumb. I know one of the last games he played, he had a ton of rebounds, but he didn't score. And so you need that scoring. And I was surprised to see that Lopez, who I was really excited about when they picked him up. I think he was playing for Milwaukee last year. I thought he would really give us some minutes, not a lot, but 5 to 10 minutes a game, just as a spot to help out with Mobley and Allen. And yeah, he's just not in the mix. I guess he's just not maybe picked up the offense or whatever. So that's been kind of tough. So
I will say though, at the start of the year, Robin Lopez, he wasn't doing half bad. Like he made when that one time he was like falling on the ground and threw behind his head and it somehow
I remember that play. Yes.
He was playing decent at the start of the year, and then he's not been playing good defense as of late, and it's not helping us on transitions.
That's correct. His transition defense is poor. He just seems like he just can't get up and down the floor. So we'll see. But yeah, Cavs, I mean, obviously it's super exciting. A lot of the points you made, I really do agree. I think the big difference with the Cavs this year, obviously the Mobley, you have Allen, you have Garland, but Donovan Mitchell, he's a superstar. I mean, he is the type of guy in big games, and I don't know if you had the opportunity to see when the Cavs played the Lakers against LeBron, and he took the game over. I mean, he was a difference maker, and that's something the Cavs haven't had since LeBron was on the team, for sure.
Yeah, because like I think last year we had that team, but we needed that one more spot, and that was the Mitchell. That's the Mitchell that we got.
Yeah, his athleticism, I think, considering he played on the West Coast, so you didn't really have an opportunity to see a lot of his games. I don't think people really understood how good he really is. So I'm very excited about the Cavs. Now, another team I wanted to kind of quickly talk to you about as well, the Cleveland Browns, it's been a very, overall, it's kind of been a rough season. It really has. Yes. You've been going ups and downs, and then, your starting quarterback doesn't play until later in the season and had some struggles. But let's be honest, Colin, they're coming off some victories. I mean, they lost to Cincinnati, but then they've come back and won against Baltimore, which is a divisional game. The defense is playing better. What's your thoughts on the Browns right now? Obviously, it's going to take a lot for them to make the playoffs, but they have some more home games as we tape this podcast. They have the Saints coming up, and I think that's a very winnable game.
I think for sure. I think the Saints we could definitely beat. I hope we beat them. With our defense, I think we could definitely stand over Andy Dalton. He won't be able to play through our secondary because Denzel Ward is finally back to what he usually is. He's playing great. I think we definitely struggled, and I think we need David Njoku healthy because Harrison Bryant by himself, not the best, especially when like Njoku got the game tying catch against the Buccaneers over Devin White. That was insane.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is coaching, to be completely honest. I think Joe Woods, we be 100% honest, I think we need to get Joe Woods out of play calling. I don't think he's a good defensive coordinator. And I think Kevin Stefanski, he's proved that he can play call, but I just don't think he can head coach and play call at the same time. I mean, like, I haven't seen of late, but earlier in the season, did you see the stat where it was like every time Nick Chubb had at least 20 carries, we won?
Yep.
And I just think, like, we don't give him the ball as much. And he has been a bit of a slump lately, but he was able to get back to it last the game that we just had against the Ravens. And I think that I hope that trailblazes momentum to the next games to show that he should be able to get the ball. Like, I think he is. He's a top 3 running back in the NFL.
Yeah. I'm just impressed you're using trailblazes. I mean, I don't, that's not even in my vocabulary. I'm impressed, man. You speak extremely well. Here's the one thing I will say about the Browns, and I want to get your insight on this. Deshaun Watson, you could see the athleticism. I think he is going to be a good player.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. How do you feel right now? I mean, we're not talking about everything that happened and why he didn't play. What I'm talking about is you've played football. You've been around football. You obviously two uncles that played football and all that kind of stuff. Do you think it's tough to bring a quarterback in the middle of your season and have him try to work with receivers and running backs and an offense when you've had another guy who is a top 10 quarterback? Once again, athleticism and abilities far outweigh, with Watson that they do with Brissett. But you could just see the continuity, obviously, with game one. Luckily, they played Houston, who's terrible, and they made a ton of mistakes, speaking of Houston. But I just think, I don't know. I'm having a hard time, and maybe you have some insight on this of where we would be right now if Brissett continued to be quarterback. Your thoughts?
I don't think anything would change. I think we have the same record if Brissett was in. I think, what was the game? Was it against the Bengals? I don't think the Bengals are red hot right now. I don't think we would be able to beat them, even with Jacoby. Yeah. No, I really think, Deshaun will be the guy, and I know he will be great again. But it's just, he has not had a snap in 700 days, and he's had to practice with, he has only been able to practice with the receivers for 4 weeks over the season.
Yep.
I mean, like, everyone's, like, trashing on him, but he's just, I get it why they're trashing on him, but, I just give him time because he's going to be great again.
Yeah, no, I agree. He just needs that time of practice and in games. And you saw the difference this past week, even though it was kind of crappy weather. where they beat Baltimore on that Saturday night. You could see that he's starting to, build some trust and be on the same wavelength with his different receivers and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, here we go. What do you think? How do the Browns finish up? What's their record now? I think right now we're at 5 wins. Is that right? We have 5 wins right now? Or is it 4?
I think no. So what I think is going to happen is right now, I think we're going to win out. Okay. I think we're going to win out the rest of the games because I think Saints easy win. Steelers easy win. I think
you think the Steelers is an easy win?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that one's in Pittsburgh too, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I think the Commanders is going to be the hardest one.
They're a good team. Yeah, they're a good team. They should have won this past week. Yeah.
7-6-1. I mean,
yep.
We could definitely beat them, but it's going to be the hardest win, I think. I think it's going to come down to a close game, but I still think we're going to be able to edge them out. Hopefully our defense can play over Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
That's because he's been playing pretty decent this year.
Yep.
After getting benched.
Yep.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think we'll be able to win out though, but I still don't think we're gonna make the playoffs.
No, I think you might be right. I think we'll be competitive. I think the Steelers game is always tough playing over there. And once again, I found my stats or my phone wasn't working. 6 wins for the Browns right now. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I think everyone expected a little bit more, but unfortunately they just, they've run into some problems on defense, which I think they have kind of improved in all honesty, but we'll find out this week as we move forward. All right. We need the Colin Forgosh update on sports as we finish here. Tell me what happened with the fall. What are you doing here in the winter? And then what do you got in the spring sports wise?
Okay. So, I finished football, I want to say 2 months ago, maybe. Rough season, lost the last 3 games.
Okay.
I got, let's see, 18 tackles, 1 sack, something like that.
Nice.
Then now we have basketball. Our team's having a rough season so far. We're 0-3.
Oh boy. Okay. You gotta shake it up, man. You gotta change it up.
I know, but the weirdest part is we won the championship last year with practically the same team.
Oh boy. Well, you guys you're living off the championship times. You gotta get down to the nitty gritty, do the little things. So that's good. And what do you do in the spring? Lacrosse?
I have spring lacrosse, which that's for my one team. And then during the summer, I have for my other team called Resolute. They're all in Ohio. They're so I play for the Toledo team.
Very cool. Exciting. All right. Last question. It's Christmas time. What is the one thing you asked for Christmas?
To be honest, a lot of clothes. I don't know.
A lot of clothes?
Yeah.
Jeez. Every time I see you, though, you got something different on. You're sporting Toledo as we have this conversation right now. What kind of clothes do you want? What are you looking for?
It's just, there's so many things I want, but it's just, there's so many different,
you talk about sports stuff, right? Are you talking about sports clothes or are you just talking about clothes in general?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. Sports clothes.
So more jerseys. Actually, I asked for a few jerseys.
Okay. Who in particular? We'll leave it at that. What particular jerseys are you looking to get?
An Eddie George Ohio State jersey.
Oh wow, yeah, he was a classic. He was a very good player.
Yes.
That's cool.
And then because I like him a lot. It's kind of weird, but it's Stephon Diggs jersey.
Okay, I could see that.
And then I just got for Christmas from my grandma, I'm getting a Detroit Lions Aiden Hutchinson jersey.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome. They've had a nice season, by the way. It's been kind of fun to watch them. Yeah, they had a really big win this past week against the Jets. So, well, Colin, thanks for the update. We appreciate the sports talk. We don't have the opportunity to do that very often on our podcast, and it's nice to talk to somebody that is very knowledgeable about the Cleveland teams. I think we're gonna have to come up with a nickname for you. There's the Cincinnati kid. I'm gonna have to go with the Cleveland kid. I think that's gonna be your nickname, the Cleveland kid. What do you think about that? Does that work for you?
Well, let's make that name on the rise. I'll become known.
Sounds good. Yep. We'll get you viral and, we'll get that going and get the hashtags out there, the YouTube stuff and all that. So, well, thank you so much for the time, Colin.
Of course.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you and your family. And we're going to be doing this again very soon. I don't know if you know this or not, but Mr. Klopp and I talked about this, and I think at least once a month we're going to have you on to talk a little bit more sports, if that works for you.
That works perfectly. All right. Merry
Cool.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Ted, we have an overachiever.
Thank God.
Not you for getting all your Christmas shopping done,
Because I didn't.
but is the Breckenridge Distillery in Utah. I
Okay.
can't think of a better winner for this award. It has broken an unofficial record for the longest shot ski. That's right, shot ski.
Shots.
I know you love to do shot skis. You've done a
Yeah.
couple before, I think, at the Hofbräu House in
Yeah.
Cleveland. The people there connected, holy cow, 468 skis into 2,401 foot chain,
Yeah.
allowing 1,350 people to take shots of the distillery's Broncos bourbon at the same time. I want to
my.
be part of this.
Yeah.
I feel as though we can maybe do this somehow on our own. This
Uh-huh.
event was part of the Julefrest. Is that it? Julefrest?
I guess.
Julefrest? It's kind of fun to say, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Which marked its 59th year and is dedicated to Yule, the Norse god of snow. Oh, you got a new name. Done.
I think
Ted Yule.
I think he should be the god of bourbon. That's what I think.
Oh
we
my
gotta call
gosh.
that.
I would think so. My
Wow.
brother would love this. Tony Dworsnik would be all over the shot ski. He has
Shot
shot skis. He always pulls them out, meaning the shot ski. This would be a wonderful thing for him to be a part of. So Breckenridge Distillery, congrats on the unofficial record for the longest shot ski. 468 skis, man. That's a lot. 2,400 feet. Love it. Love it.
Ken, we were out and about this past week, and I was not just at a hockey rink.
Whoa. Love it.
Shocking, I know. So we took the boys to the orchestra
Really?
for a holiday or a Christmas concert.
Oh, awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. And now we were 10 seats from the top in the back, but there's not a bad seat in the house.
No. And you're there for the sound anyway. It doesn't
Yeah.
make any difference. Oh,
Yeah,
that's really
so-
cool. Did they enjoy it? Did they have fun?
Oh, not as much as not as much as I had hoped. They apparently we can't have surprises in our house.
Oh,
There were tears. Why didn't you tell me we were doing this? Well, I didn't know I had to
Really?
clear it with you. Well,
Wow.
I wanted to stay home. I said, well, finally, I just went with, believe me when I tell you, this is not a mistake that will be duplicated.
are you saying that this is the Jimmy Carter one and done? Is that what you're saying? That's it?
Unless I get requests to go back. I'm
Oh,
not
boy.
spending $250 for the 5 of us to go again and have that kind of stuff go on. Hell no. Pardon my French. Yeah, I was.
This has become a venting out and about. We're gonna vent. Hold on. I gotta have a stroke. Let me get 2 seconds here. Oh. Is there any other places you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, we got. I had one kid crying when we left, crying when we got there. I'm like, what is? And then they do intermission.
Yes,
You
they
know
do.
what? Know what the response I got was? There's more.
Oh my.
And so then, the show ends,
Oh.
everybody stands up and applauds. And my wife thinks it's over. And she's, let's try to get out of here and whatnot. And she's like, I think we should go. And I said, they're not leaving the stage. I think they're going to play another song or two. And I get another one, not from her, but
Oh my.
from a 4-footer.
That is hands down one of the best out and abouts we've had on the show. I can't hold a candle to that.
Now Santa was there. He did
cool.
arrive.
All right.
He did take some audience questions. Like, for example,
really,
are any politicians on the nice list? Answer: no.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Has Santa ever been on the naughty list? He who makes the list is not on the naughty side.
Oh, wow.
Things like that. Yeah. So it was fun. So I think they were excited to see Santa. You know the song Sleigh Ride with the slap of it sounds like a whip.
Yeah.
They thought that was outstanding.
That's well done there.
So
I've seen that show before. They do a very good, nice job.
I enjoyed it. So yeah, that was.
We tried.
Twigby Bear was there. Do you remember the Twigby shop?
I do. Yes.
Yeah, Twigby Bear was
starting
there.
to come back again. That's getting popular again.
Yeah. So Twigby Bear was there. And so we went out and about there. And then I went out and about. My kids went to Adrenaline Monkey and Shaker Rocks on separate days.
What is that? I don't know what either of those are. What is that?
Adrenaline Monkey is like a American Ninja Warrior for kids. Inside.
Oh, okay. Got it.
You know, all kinds of stuff.
Got it.
And I know this will be a shock to you when I tell you that the Klopp kids were the first ones there and the last ones to leave.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
9 p.m.
I love that stuff.
Closing the place.
Wow.
And then Shaker Rocks is a rock climbing place. So
that's cool. I have heard of that one.
Yes. We had a bunch of hockey kids go there, and
cool.
That was fun. I got to go to the Crown Plaza downtown for my cousin's wedding.
Nice.
That was very exciting. Got to see folks I have not seen in way too long, and it was nice. It was great. Super fun event.
That's a nice facility. Good for you, man. That's cool.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
My out and about will not be as exciting as yours. We went to the Christmas Carol. We've done that a couple of years in a row now.
Now, did your kids fight you on that? Did they cry and complain?
No, they knew. Maybe it was because it wasn't a surprise.
I guess
they knew what they were going. Maybe that was it. So, but they had a very good time. It was actually Awen and her son, and then her mom was in town as well, and so we all went. It was fun. And then recently, last weekend we went to one of our favorite cocktail places. I will mention it again. It's called Speak of the Devil in Lorraine. And we also went to a place called the Shipyard that had a very nice Christmas decoration. We went to the Brew Garden in on Bagley Road in Middleburg after Maddie's choral event last week. And then we went to Panini's just for a quick drink and some food over the weekend. So that's our out and about. We're looking to do some more. If anyone has any suggestions for us, I know we give quite a bit here on the show, but please let us know, as we'll be looking to go out and about just after Christmas. So Chad, I guess my recommendation, don't give any surprises to your children.
Don't give any surprises. As how much longer is this? And I said, what, you got a date? You got to be somewhere? What's going on? No, I don't have a date. Well, why do you want to know that?
Oh my. Well, sir, I appreciate your info. And yes, we were out and about and loving it in Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Time for another Cleveland sports history. Let's bring in the sports historian, Dusty Sloan. And Dusty, a very interesting one this week. We go back to 1999. Orlando Brown was ejected from a game for pushing referee Jeff Triplett to the ground. Triplett had accidentally hit Brown in the eye with a weighted penalty flag. Dusty, certainly a very strange situation and unfortunate for Orlando Brown, but talk about what happened during that game and on that play and what proceeded after that.
Well, I certainly remember that play like it was yesterday. It was 23 years ago, but unfortunately, it was at the end of the season. Expansion season for the Browns wasn't going very well. Ended up 2-14. But Orlando Brown was a guy who wanted to come back to Cleveland. Remember, he started in Cleveland, went to the Ravens with the team, came back as a free agent, and you think, well, you've got a bookend right tackle that you're going to have for an awful long time, and then this happens. And it affected his eyesight. He was out for years, eventually came back with Baltimore again for a little while. But it was just it was one of those things you just pile it on with the Browns, the drive, the fumble, the move, the penalty flag, Bottlegate. You just go on and on and on. And this was kind of the portent of things to come for the expansion era Browns.
So that was Chris Palmer at the helm. Is that correct?
Correct.
Coach?
Yep.
So I remember an interview, and Ted had talked about this at one point in time. When he did an interview, it was so strange because he would never say Orlando Brown's name. He would say, well, the player. Do you remember that interview?
I do not remember that interview. And that is so odd because what that tells me is kind of like a Bill Parcells, Terry Glenn type thing where he didn't have the best relationship with him and maybe didn't even get asked about signing Orlando Brown. That's very odd.
Yeah, I thought so too. Now, Brown went on, you said, and came back after a few years. Now, I thought he got a settlement from the NFL or something like that with that as well. Isn't that correct, Dusty? Do you remember?
Fairly certain that he did, yeah. And then, again, came back and played a little bit, tragically passed away a while back. And now his son, obviously, a very good tackle for the Chiefs. So, yeah, very tragic thing that happened right out of the gate that very first season. And certainly wish it hadn't happened. It's obviously created changes in the NFL with the way referees throw flags, but you would hate to have that happen in order for that to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's such a sad situation for a very good, I thought he was a very good player when he was, obviously didn't go through that injury. And when he came back, I thought he was a good player, but a crazy time in 1999 when the Browns started. As we look back then when Orlando Brown was ejected from a game by Jeff Triplett and accidentally getting hit in the eye with a weighted flag. Dusty, as always, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Ken.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Ted, what are you watching? The opportunity for us to talk about what crazy stuff you and I, as well as family members, are watching.
Yes.
On the boob tube, as they call it. So,
yes.
Sir, I hand the baton to you, and you can start us off with this first segment.
Yeah.
What are you watching?
So we share, we live with my in-laws. And so there are things that appear from time to time that are interesting. So one of the things that I noticed on our DVR is a movie called Fathom. Fathom. It was on FMX Retro. Never heard of that channel. You taking notes here?
I am. I'm writing these down.
Okay. This is a not rated movie from 1967.
Ooh.
The record time was 1 hour and 39 minutes, but at our house, we usually don't record at the beginning unless we set it up ahead of time. So I don't know that was the actual runtime of the film. The synopsis: a buxom skydiver with a parachute team is recruited to retrieve a stolen component for a nuclear weapon by a man posing as an agent of the United States. Starring Anthony Fersozia, Raquel Welch, Ronald Major, and Greta Chi. It's an interesting. Yeah,
I've never heard of that movie.
No, the only thing I've heard of there is Raquel Welch.
So now I will ask, you did not watch this. This is just on your DVR,
this
right?
It's on the DVR. I did not feel it was worthy of the 1 hour 39-minute investment.
Okay, got it.
Next one.
Okay.
The 9 Lives of Vince McMahon. It's on Vice, rated TV 14. It just came out. It's 2 hours long. Vince McMahon had virtually full control over the world of wrestling for over 4 decades and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar empire despite lawsuits, accusations, scandals, and controversies. This is one that I chose to record and I started watching, and it's pretty interesting if and we've talked wrestling here from time to time. And so
sure. Yeah.
So
that's one you're actually kind of looking forward to, right?
Yes.
Was that made recently?
Yeah, it just came out.
Oh, wow. That should be an interesting one. He's got some stuff going on.
What was it, like 6 months ago or whenever that he retired? It started with the announcement that he had just retired. So, yeah, it just came out. So that's the 9 Lives of Vince McMahon. Got 2 more here. Dreaming of a Jewish Christmas. Dreaming of a Jewish Christmas. Not sure what that is. That's on PBS, TVPG, came out in 2017. It's an hour long. A musical documentary about one of Christianity's most popular holiday soundtracks and how a group of Jewish songwriters wrote the songs. Never thought I'd hear about a Jewish Christmas.
I think I'm dreaming of a Jewish Christmas, if I'm not
That's
mistaken.
like the religious version of jumbo shrimp, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. You're my buddy and all. We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
There is no one that has those 3 items recorded on their DVR like you. Nobody else. You're the only one.
Go from Raquel Welch to Vince McMahon to a Jewish Christmas. Okay.
That is outstanding.
All right, here's the last one. Weather Underground. This is on the Weather Channel, rated TVG. The most comprehensive, reliable weather information possible is featured. Now, the thing that I found interesting about this, whoever recorded this recorded an hour and 20 minutes of it. Why do you need an hour and 20 minutes? And this, so we skimmed through it, and they're talking about the storms down in Georgia. And we don't have anybody we know in that area. So what the heck are we doing?
Is it just an automatically recording, or did someone press record?
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever automatically recorded the Weather Channel?
I have not. No.
Okay. I don't know if anybody, I mean, isn't the Weather Channel, you just flip it on, see the forecast and put on?
Yeah, it's usually
if you look in the ratings for most DVR programs, I don't think that the Weather Channel is high on the list.
No. Unless you want to see, what's that guy's name who goes out in the crazy
Jim
weather? Cantora. Yeah.
Cantora. Yep. I'm standing in the middle of Hurricane Smith. I'm being blown away. Yeah. So.
Oh, my.
But what do you have?
Well, that's going to be tough to beat. Those are,
strong first effort.
Oh, we don't use the DVR that we have. That's first and foremost. So I guess this is almost like a, basically, I'm just kind of almost like I'm in reconciliation. I don't use the DVR. Well, your penance is that you have to watch all this stuff all the time. 2 shows. The first one is mine. Everybody's talked about this. I never watched it. So I finally started watching it. I'm way behind. The show Ted Lasso. Did you hear about this? It's basically the premise of the show. It's a comedian. It's like Jason Sakadilkis or whatever his name is. He was on Saturday Night Live for a while.
Okay.
He is a Division II football coach that wins a national championship and gets hired to coach European soccer in the Premier League. That's the premise of the show.
Okay.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I've watched 3 episodes. I must say I'm kind of addicted, so I'll be finishing that here pretty soon. And then the other guilty pleasure that I have jumped on board with A1 to watch, 90 Day Fiancé.
Oh, sure.
It is by far one of the most entertaining things I have seen in a very long time.
Is the short guy still on there?
Yes, Ed. Yes.
Okay.
He is now, well, from the show that I've watched in this season, he is now on his 3rd person just in this season.
In this season.
Yeah, he's trying very hard to find love, and it's just not working.
Boy.
Found a local gal, didn't work. Found a woman from Mexico, that didn't work. And now he's pursuing things. But unfortunately, and it's not a funny matter, his dog passed away. So we've been dealing with that.
Yeah, that is.
Got a few other folks that have been on the show before. If you just want some mindless TV to see some ridiculousness, this is the one to watch. It really is. It's very comical. So those are the 2 shows. I'll have to do some more research because I cannot compare to what you brought to the table today, sir. I am thoroughly impressed with your DVR.
Well, I think you should find this movie called Fathom.
Okay.
And put it on when Aowen's in the other room so that she can walk in, look at the TV and say, "What are you watching?"
Ted, we have some good news for the Christmas holiday. Motorists in Marathon, Florida, who sped through a school zone were pulled over by a sheriff's deputy dressed as the Grinch.
Okay.
They were speeding 5 miles or less over the school zone speed limit. They were given an onion from the Grinch as a reminder to slow down. Faster speeders received citations. Colonel Lou Caputo came up with the idea about 20 years ago as a nice way to remind motorists that school is in session for part of the Christmas season. I think that's a good way that people need to be reminded to slow down in the school zone. Seems like, I don't care where you're at, what part of the country. Seems like people just cannot do that. That's crazy.
No. School zone.
Nice reminder, though. Very, very well done in Marathon, Florida. I like that.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah,
Blah,
blah.
blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Today's guest is a native of Cleveland, Ohio, graduating from St. Ignatius High School and also attending the University of Dayton. During his junior year at college, he realized he had a passion in writing movie scripts and movies. Our guest has been an executive producer, co-producer, line producer, and director for many different projects in the last 15 years. Our guest is an executive producer on a film that can be seen on Netflix called I See You, starring Helen Hunt. Our guest has worked with some of the best and brightest names in the industry, from documentaries to full-length films. He has worked with celebrities such as Craig Robinson, Jessica Chastain, and a hip-hop royalties such as Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, Wiz Khalifa, Warren G, and Snoop Dogg. I love that. And it was all done in a 2017 documentary called G-Funk.
Wait a minute. Isn't G-Funk, isn't that the name you wanted me to use on the podcast when we started?
No.
Okay.
No. We had talked about that, but that's not going to happen.
Okay. All right.
Let's talk with the very busy, very popular Bob Ruggieri. Bob, what a pleasure it is to talk with you, man. So great to see you, and thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. This is fun. It's always interesting to hear people rattle back your resume and see what
Isn't it? Yeah. Then you sit there and think about it like, wow, I've done a lot of stuff, and you really have. I mean, that was a mouthful, but to work with some of the people you have, it's pretty impressive. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but it's funny because since you and I both graduated together at Ignatius, and there's some context to the background story. It's been a while. So when you start to think about it, you look at 20 years, however long has elapsed since we graduated, all of a sudden you start to think like, oh yeah, I did that. But that was like in 2006, or I did that. That was in 2009. So yeah, things start to be compartmentalized.
Yes, and the years start to get together a little bit as we get older, as we're starting to understand with the kids and all that fun stuff too. So, So from the start, let's talk about how you got started in movies and documentaries and all that. Talk about what made you step away from what you were looking to do as your major at Dayton, and then get into filmmaking and being part of that industry.
Yeah, so you sort of mentioned it in the intro. I just happened to be at a library or a bookstore actually when I was at Dayton, and I just saw a screenplay for a movie that I had seen called 4 Weddings and a Funeral. But what was interesting about it was that the guy had written a diary in the front of the screenplay talking about how the characters evolved, how the story took shape. And I thought it was so interesting to actually have that kind of perspective into his mind in terms of how he cultivated that story. And something about reading that first script, it just felt like that's what I was meant to do. So I always loved creative writing, but I'm not really a novelist. And so I didn't really see any career in that until I saw screenplays, which is very straightforward in terms of you don't have to write beautiful prose. You just have to write what people are seeing on the screen. So something just clicked so I switched majors going into my senior year, had to take a bunch of summer classes, and then wrote my first script right out of college, and it got picked up by a major studio right away. So I thought that I thought I had hit it right away. But then I started to learn the real story of Hollywood, where things go into development and then they die a slow death. So that was what happened basically. Started off as a screenwriter, had producers always calling me, telling me what was happening, how it was about to get made. It kept getting written up in the trades. They were attaching cast to it. So I would get re-excited, and then all of a sudden nothing would happen. So I wrote another script and the same story happened. And so finally I was like, I need to go into producing to take care of my own material.
Well, I understand your first movie called Take Shelter. You were a co-producer in 2011. This is an American psychological thriller, and the plot follows a young husband and father plagued by a series of apocalyptic visions and questions whether to shelter his family from a coming storm or from himself? And by the way, I have that same question on a daily basis, but maybe not for the same reason. He has worries about having paranoid schizophrenia. This movie is based in LaGrange, Ohio, which is about an hour west of Cleveland. Can you talk about getting that movie together and how you came to film it in LaGrange?
Yeah, so that one was I just, you know how there's those nights where you just have this inside lurking, that's not the right word. You have like this just weird feeling that you need to go somewhere that you don't really want to go. Well, this particular night I decided to go to a film mixer, which was like 30-40 minutes away from me. But something just compelled me to go that night, and I ended up bumping into the writer director of that movie, Jeff, and then Tyler Davidson, the producer. And basically I just spent the entire night talking to those guys. So by then I had been producing commercials. I did most of LeBron's work when he was a Cavalier, round one. So I knew all the crew. I had been now on the producing side for a while. And so when I met those three, we just clicked and they brought me on board as an additional producer. So but the reason that it was filmed so far out was because it was Grafton, Elyria, that whole area.
Lorain County.
Yeah. So it was originally written for Arkansas. And so Jeff wanted to have those kind of big, large, sweeping, flat landscapes because we knew we were going to have a lot of CGI of like storm sequences. So that is why we pushed so far out that direction.
That's really cool. I have a follow-up question, but I want to continue what we're having about, filmmaking in this area and all that kind of stuff. So an opportunity, obviously I had to do some research. I want to sound like I know what the heck I'm doing, Bob. Okay. So I found an interview you did on YouTube TV called Fire Builders. It's pretty cool. I've watched some of the other interviews. I watched the one you did. Now, during this interview, you talked about a few different things. So I want to bring up a couple quick points.
Okay.
You mentioned your first job was designing dresses for deceased ladies. Can you talk about that and what is that all about?
Yeah, so it's a long backstory, but essentially out of college. So actually, while I was at Dayton, I had switched majors to do art and graphic design because I was designing T-shirts. So I lived only 3 hours away from Dayton. So basically, what I would do is I would draw and design T-shirts for all the frats and sororities. I would come home on weekends. My dad and I would sit in the garage, drink Labatt beer, and screen print all the shirts ourselves.
That's cool.
And then I would go back to school. I'm sorry. What was the context of that? Oh, dead dresses.
We're asking designing dresses for deceased ladies, which I never thought I'd hear those words in that order. But go ahead.
Did you see how my mind tried to erase that memory? But
yes,
you guys are making that synapse.
Nice job, Ken.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I drank a lot of bourbon to try and kill that brain cell. So anyway, my dad found a place, a big warehouse where we could put our screen printing equipment and then embroidery equipment, and happened to be on the same floor as this company that made dresses for deceased women called Mary Grace Gowns. And they had one sales rep, they had 3 employees, and basically they made dresses that were sold to funeral homes so that people could buy pre-packaged arrangements. They could just say, oh, I want that dress, so they don't have to think about their loved one or go through their closet. So while we were on that space, the guy who owned that company offered to sell it to us at a low cost to try and keep his bigger, larger manufacturing company afloat, which made hockey jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
We inherited this gown company and then eventually ended up inheriting his hockey jersey company as well. So yeah, that was the second script I wrote.
Wow.
was a movie called Dead Dresses, about my dad handing me basically a shop that manufactures dresses for dead women after college.
So what did your business card say when you worked at? Is it designs dresses for dead people, or was that not quite?
There was a Cranes article written that called me the Armani of the dead, and so that's what I started calling myself.
Oh my god, that's a great story.
All right, so you go from the Armani of the Dead to producing commercials along with movie making. And you mentioned that producing commercials, not your full passion when you did this interview with Fire Builders, but it's a paycheck. So talk about what it's like to produce a commercial, and can you give us some examples of some we might be familiar with?
Yeah, producing a commercial is extremely stressful. So basically, especially when you're working with superstars. So when you're working with, LeBron James, and we did a bunch of Shaquille O'Neal and Ben Stein commercials after he left. So when you're working with people of that caliber, there's been people that have been working on this commercial for months, concepting it. There's a lot of money being spent, and they're coming into your town, which is how you get attached to the project. So they know that they're coming into your world. Those people wanted to always film in their hometown. And so you basically just have to pull together a huge crew. You're really just meeting the director and the creative team, and you're essentially trying to make sure that everything falls into place in that 1 day window that you have to like capture it all. So those jobs tend to pay very well. I always say that commercials paid the bills and movies paid the soul. But now I don't even know about that. Movies are so crazy these days, making movies. That it's all just a wild adventure. But yeah, so a commercial is obviously, it's just a very smaller time frame, but you're more of just making sure everything happens the way that it's supposed to happen in that 1 day window. Whereas a movie, you could take years. Some movies take years to develop and to attach the right cast member and when are they available, and then once that piece falls into place, then you can start attaching the rest until you can try and have all these major things have to align to be able to film. But yeah, so it's a big difference.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Well, you talked about on the podcast you did previously, and then ours a little bit about, certainly you are a writer, you've enjoyed writing, but you decided to become a producer to protect your writing. Can you talk more about that? What do you, for those at home that aren't writers or producers or directors, what does that mean? What are you trying to say there?
Well, just trying to give the power back to me where I have control of my own destiny, because something that I didn't even notice in myself until much later is that when you're a writer and all these people show interest in it, but then it never gets produced, you start to feel like you're a victim. Yeah. Well, nobody owes it to me. Nobody owes it to me to make that script. There's millions of great scripts floating around. And it's funny that I didn't even notice it until I started producing, and I had to raise money where I realized how hard it is to get something up off the ground, how hard it is to raise money based on just an idea. When you're producing a movie, you're pitching what you believe will be a finished product, what it will look like, where it's going to play, how much money it can make. You're doing all that from the ethos. So yeah, that's the balance that you're always trying to walk there. So when I started breaking into the industry, I just wanted to learn what producers do, and so that I would know what the lingo was, what's actually going. People would tell me we have a backstop deal with this company, the other company's coming in for half, and I didn't know what any of that meant. So I just felt like I needed to kind of take control so that I would have the power to do my own movies. Now, you brought up Take Shelter, my first movie. That movie was kind of a blessing and a curse, because that movie was so good that immediately Tyler and I were doing film festival circuits. We're meeting with producers, literally like I had read about while I was in college, where we were taking lunches at major film festivals, just reading script after script after script, meeting after meeting. And then we found another script that we both fell in love with. It was called Toys House at the time. It ended up coming out as Kings of Summer. And we both just knew right away that we had to make that movie. And so then I was still producing. And then once you're producing, then you just see people just start sending you projects. And so I just stopped doing my own projects. I stopped doing my own writing and was basically producing projects for other people for scripts that I love.
Huh. Interesting. Well, now, it says here that you had the opportunity to work for the Browns doing a show called Building the Browns. Now, before I ask my question, I want to make this clear. You have nothing to do with draft picks or signings of players. Is that correct? We don't blame you for their current record. Is that, am I right on that?
I wish I did. Yeah.
Okay.
I do
All right.
not.
So Building the Browns is, I'm assuming it's a show about how they do it, but you're the producer. So can you talk about that experience and working in an environment with, you mentioned it was tough to work with superstars on commercials, and now you've got 53, 60 of them, however many. I would imagine that the stress goes up a little bit.
Well, the stress for me was that this is a TV series. So I had never worked or produced where I was in charge of trying to outline and basically script out what 5 episodes would look like. So I was brought in, the show already existed, and I was actually already a big fan of the show. It's basically like a Hard Knocks that the Browns had started doing before Hard Knocks was out. Yeah. And so I already loved the show. I already watched it. And then all of a sudden I got a call, because this was the year of Freddie Kitchens. This was the year of Baker Mayfield coming into year 2. This is when we got, OBJ. And so the Haslams are media savvy. And so is JW, who's, the son-in-law who runs the team. And so they wanted to bring in a producer so that I can bring in some extra resources, because they have an internal video team, but they also have other things that they need to be working on. So they wanted somebody to come in and try and build it up, and spend some money. So yeah, it was definitely a challenge. It was probably one of the greatest things and worst things I've ever done, because I came in just, I think I overtaxed my team because I didn't have enough confidence to know exactly what storylines we needed. I didn't really understand on a typical training camp day how much opportunity we had to film. So I think it started off with a little bit of tension that I probably was overcompensating and trying a little too hard, but I just started to find my groove, I think, around like the third, fourth, fifth episodes, and actually started to really enjoy it. I got to fly on the team planes, stay in their hotels. You get to go to their rooms and interview them if there's a story that you're following. So it was a really cool opportunity just to see like a kind of behind the scenes story of how the NFL works and how the players, their dynamic. So yeah, I mean, it's something that I'll always treasure, but it's not something that I think I would have continued doing for years to come.
Bob, follow-up question to that. So you said obviously that would be difficult to do. You're trying to create all these different episodes for a series. So when you were filming, were you just kind of filming and just kind of seeing what was going on, and then you came up with the idea of what that episode's going to be about, or did you have a basic idea going in each one?
No, I had to have an idea. That's what was so hard. I remember
that would be super hard.
And you have to present it to a series of people, including the PR team, who have to sign off on the storylines you're telling. And so I just remember I got so stressed out that I think I ended up just pulling one all-nighter where I just brain dumped every single idea I had and just started trying to fine tune it and make it stronger and connect dots as I went. And I think just in one wild flurry, I handed in a piece of paper that was like 4 or 5 pages long that had all of the working storylines going through it. And that was just kind of like, again, trial by fire. Like, I have no idea if what I sent them was completely unprofessional or if I fooled them, or, you know, all I know is we ended up using it as our basic blueprint. And then, you know, things might move a little bit. Like, I remember one day Phil Dawson, we found out was coming in. And so we took part of an episode and we followed him and learned about how he had a flag in the corner of the stadium, that a sniper had taught him how to judge the wind, called Phil's flag. Like, a lot of little things would pop up that you would alter, but basically, yeah, you had to try and figure it all out in advance. You had to predict the future.
That's impressive. I'll be honest with you, I did watch those. They're very well done. So I hats off to you. And I did watch that series with Freddie Kitchens and Baker and all that stuff. You guys did a great job. You have a lot to be proud about.
Great.
So with a bunch of stuff, you're now part of the media group called Think Media Studios, leading video and film production company in Cleveland. Talk about working for Think Media Studios, what projects you've been working with them recently, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so Think Media Studios is a company that I had known about for years. So, like, they're the one studio in town that I would see their trucks out there. I would hear great things about them. I think one year we both had a movie at Sundance at the same time. So we just kept crossing paths, but for whatever reason, I had just never stepped into their wheelhouse. So, like, we just kind of were always passing ships. Then COVID hits. And during COVID, I didn't know if I was ever going to have a job again in my life. Like, when it was first in its, you know, that first wave when it was all just unknown, I started doing food styling because food doesn't care about COVID. So I started doing some food styling, and somebody who I met through that asked me to step in for her as an AD, an assistant director, on one of the shoots that they were doing for Purell, which of course would shoot during COVID.
Sure.
And it was on that shoot that I just clicked with the director. Like, we just both hit it off. We ended up shooting for 2 days. So by the end of the second day, they happened to have an in-house female producer and an in-house female director who were both going on maternity leave in about 2 or 3 months from when I worked with them. And so because I produced and directed, they asked if I would just do like a 13-week short-term contract for them, just to kind of fill in the gap and help them weather that little period. And then both lovely ladies had their children and they both returned, and then I was still there. I had like projects that we were working on, and then I actually started producing a movie that I had started pre-COVID. Think Media Studios ended up coming on board and is producing it, and my friend Jeff, the guy who I worked on that commercial with, and I are both directing it. So that's another hip-hop movie about Run DMC, the Beastie Boys, and LL Cool J, called Hollis, because they all came out of Hollis, Queens. So so it just kind of all meshed perfectly together, and now I think I've been there full time for, I don't know, probably going on 2 years.
Wow,
that's awesome.
That's so I'm going to see how many NDAs we can get you to violate with this question.
I'll violate all of them. Go for it.
Upcoming movie projects or things we can see your name on that are going to be coming out soon?
Yeah, so hopefully Hollis. So right now we've been filming that. We got to film Run DMC, which I grew up loving those guys. We filmed Russell Simmons, and so we have a bunch of interviews already in the can, and now it's being pitched to major networks. So we're hoping that a streaming service. Normally in the past we would raise all the money, film something, and then go out and try and sell it. In this instance, we felt like we have enough star power. We have a good enough trailer that we really love, and the new world is turning into a web series. So what we're trying to do is now package it as a 3-part series. And we brought on an executive producer who has a lot of TV background and has a lot of projects on air, who's now going service to service pitching the story. So hoping that one is filming this year. And then I decided to step back into the producerial role because I just found another script that I love too much, that I just had to do it. So usually, in order for me to decide to produce something, it's such a stressful, crazy, long commitment that I have to love something. So I read a script, and then it haunted me, and then I had to keep going back and rereading it, and then I just knew that I had to be a part of it. So the director of that film, the writer-director of that film, actually just moved to Cleveland. So he's now set up here, and we just had our first in-person meeting last week, and so now we'll start prep, and we're just waiting for our first main cast member to attach. We're out to somebody who I absolutely love, but I won't say it yet just in case it doesn't work out. But if it does.
So that's the NDA we're not going to violate, is what you're saying.
It's not an NDA. I just think it's like
Okay.
it's a superstition.
Okay. It's a jinx. I got it.
Yes.
All right. So my follow-up to that, with Cleveland, it seems like this has now become a place where people want to shoot films and do different video things and things like that. A person that has a ton of experience in this industry. What has changed in recent years that people want to come here and do that here in the wonderful city that you grew up in?
The biggest thing is the tax credit. So
Okay.
State of Ohio was one of the last to the table, but it actually ended up benefiting us in the long term, because before people really had a good understanding of how that would work and how the money actually would shuffle through the economy, a lot of states went too high on their tax credits. And so basically they were up and running for like a year or two. They had huge movies coming in, all the Marvel movies. And then they realized that the credit that they had put out there was way too high, and they were end up losing money and they would all bankrupt. So Ohio came in late with a capped number to see how it would work, and they waited and did their homework and, saw what other cities were doing. So by the time the credit came, I think it was around like 2009, 2010. We got all the defectors from the other states that went under. So we got the Marvel movies. We got, that's when the Avengers came and Spider-Man. And so I think, and then once people started coming here, they realized that we had this really good internal crew base of people that have been here. We've got lifers that work year round. And then we also have a city that can give you lots of different looks. We have metro parks. You can shoot parts of downtown for New York. So it's a very diverse in terms of its architecture and the different looks you can get out of within a 30-minute drive, basically.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. And it's super exciting to hear. Never did I think, and you probably didn't think this either, being in high school, that a Spider-Man movie, a Marvel movie, or all these different movies would be shot here, certainly in the downtown area. It's pretty neat. I'm looking forward to seeing what else is done, but that makes sense with the tax credit and all that.
Yeah.
Well, Bob.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, we never saw movies being filmed ever here.
No.
Like, it was never even on my radar. The only thing I'd ever heard about was that the house from A Christmas Story. Like, that's the only story that ever circulated. And then the bridge, or just the opening scenes from Major League.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the rest, but it was still, those were still filmed in Milwaukee, and also, like they just filmed some exteriors here. So
We weren't even good enough to have our own stadium stand in for itself in Major League.
That's
I
true.
know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's crazy. It's just nuts. Well, Bob, we really appreciate the time. Want to give you the opportunity to, obviously you talked about some things coming up, but how can people follow your work, follow you, and find out what the latest and greatest is with Bob or Jerry?
I think at Think Media Studios, we're doing a big social media push right now where we're starting to put out a lot of content. And so you can see the movies that we're working on. So everything that I'm doing now is now funneling through Think Media, just because I've been there now. And so all the projects that I've had up, we're all now merging and combining our efforts to see through. So yeah, a lot of those things, like we do all the Cavs big hype videos. So I just got to direct Machine Gun Kelly for the big Cavs home opener, which was a ton of fun. And so, yeah, so if you follow Think Media Studios, you will see everything that I'm up to and that the company is up to.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, Bob, thank you so much for the time. Congratulations on all your success. I mean, my gosh, you've done a lot of things, and I know there's a lot more to come. It's because obviously with your creative mind and your ability to write very well, I imagine there's going to be some stuff way down the road that you don't even know about yet. So that's really cool. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that too. Yeah. Last little story is that first script that I told you about that kept dying in development hell. It's a basketball script that I wrote in 2002. As I was going to direct the Cavs commercial, literally walking into the building, I get a call from the guy who wrote the movie about that said that movie is about to go into production. So don't know if it's official, but all of a sudden that one might come full circle, which would make the story better for the next interview I do, that it actually finally came full circle. Right now I have a dangling storyline.
It only took 20 years, right?
It only took 20 years. Yeah.
It's okay. Well, as we move forward, and if that gets big, then we'd love to have you on again. But once again, congratulations on your success. Best of luck in the future. And once again, it's always nice to talk to somebody from the Cleveland area that's doing very well in something I don't think you ever experienced that you'd be doing. So that's very cool.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. It's fun. And I started listening to your podcast after you reached out to me. And I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. It's like you've been doing this for 20 some years, which I don't know, maybe you have in some form.
Well,
a little bit.
We probably have, just we haven't been recording it until the last couple. Is that about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And I'm excited to be on it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you, Bob.
The most trusted name in journalism, Klopp's Clips.
All right, Ken, here we go. An Arizona driver got pulled over for riding in the high occupancy vehicle lane. The driver had, as his second passenger, or his passenger, he had an inflatable Grinch in the passenger seat. Apparently, the officer's heart did not grow enough, as the driver did get a ticket.
Heck of a try.
Yeah.
I appreciate the effort.
Cops in Germany are investigating an interesting theft from a farm. 60 containers of bull sperm were stolen.
What?
No word on how the heist happened. The cargo, though, that stuff needs to be super cooled with liquid nitrogen at negative 196 degrees Celsius. So even
so many questions.
How do you? I don't know.
Too many questions for that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
We could have a whole podcast just on that.
Whew. Boy. A 2-year-old in Uganda is an amazing survivor. The child was apparently grabbed by a hippo, and the hippo was in the process of swallowing the boy.
Oh,
When a man saw what was happening and threw rocks at the hippo. So the hippo spit the boy out and lumbered away. The boy was treated at a local hospital, given a rabies vaccine, and released.
the things I thought I would not hear today. That is one of them. I didn't imagine anybody would be swallowed by a hippo.
Swallowed by a
The
hippo.
poor little young man.
Yeah.
And all they did was give him a rabies vaccine. Jeez Louise.
Well-
Well, I mean, maybe this is a sign. Carry rocks wherever you go. You never know when you can help somebody out. Carry a rock.
I think, carry a rock. I think maybe the healthcare system is a little different in Uganda. I'm not sure, though.
Yep, maybe.
In sports, here's the scoreboard. 100 to 96, 87 to 82, 96 to 71, and 115 to 108. There you go. I'm Ted Klopp. That's news to me.
Oh no, not a dad joke.
Hey, Ken, where does Frosty the Snowman keep his money?
Where does he keep his money? I'm not sure.
At the snowbank.
That joke was horrible.
Coming to the end of episode 104. Special thanks to Bob Ruggieri with the visit and the kind, generous donation of his time to talk to us about all things movie and television production. That was quite interesting.
Yeah, he's sort of big time. I mean, you're doing documentaries with, I don't know, Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. I mean, the closest I get to a celebrity is talking to you every week.
Yeah,
So,
well, that's
where I'm at.
carried away with that. But what was that one guy, T Money or G Money or something? Isn't that what you wanted me to? I don't know.
Yeah. T-Pain. Was it T-Pain? I don't know. I
Okay.
remember. Yeah.
Him
G-Funk. No, that's just the G-Funk.
Oh, the G-Funk.
That's the name of the documentary.
Well, that's
Yeah.
my street.
That's going to be your new name, G-Funk.
G-Funk, right?
G-Funk, actually. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. So, I know Santa is. Have you figured out if you're on the naughty list or the nice list?
I don't know. I'm like a tweener, if that makes
Okay.
sense. I've done some naughty things for a long time, but I've sort of been nice recently. So I don't know. You know, it's kind of like we ask people if they go to heaven or if they go to hell. And
Yeah.
you're in between. So a purgatory. I don't know. Is there like a purgatory list or a tweener list? I'm probably on that. Is my guess. Or no list at all. I didn't make the list. That seems about right.
Half a piece of coal and a cookie. Is that what
Right.
Okay.
No, you get nothing.
Okay. Our kids have found some websites that will apparently look you up and tell if you're on the naughty or nice list.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Did you look your name up?
I don't think they looked me up. They looked each other up. And
They make it? Are they good?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I guess
Is this a day-to-day thing, really? I mean,
Well,
that's kind of where we're at.
Isn't it all?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
So, it's a day that ends in Y. The word of the day at our house is always chaotic.
Chaotic.
Chaotic. So is there anything that you've gotten, Eowyn, that you'd like to share here on the show, gift wise, aside from whatever Santa will bring?
I won't go into particulars because I mean, perchance that she listens to this podcast. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, you never know. I mean, it is the holiday
What are the
season.
odds?
Things slow down, but I think there's a better chance of this pen being stuck in my eye than her listening to this podcast. So I can get into two. So we went, and the deal we did this year is we decided we're going to get each other gifts, and it has to be under $75.
Oh, there you go.
So that's kind of what we did. So just to kind of make it easy. So I got a couple kitchen items for that I've been marking down for a while, which is actually smart. I mean, I'm at the point now, and I'm not sure where you're at with buying stuff for your wife. It's hard because you have so many different things already.
Now,
and you don't want to double up anything. So as I see things, I have like a notepad next to the bed and I write stuff down just so I can remember. So I had a couple items like that I got.
Kitchen items. You're not going to talking about
stuff for it, so
kitchen items. It's not the dustpan and the broom, is it?
Oh no. That's no, that's not it. Cooking items.
Okay.
Things to cook with. So. And some Penn State stuff. I could never go wrong with that.
Yeah.
So.
I remember I used to make
about yourself. What do you got?
I used to make lists and take pride in finding, the most unique thing that she really wants but doesn't know she wants.
Right.
I don't think we give gifts anymore.
Really? You don't do gifts for each other?
No.
Something small. I mean, we're not talking about big money here. $20.
I'm still trying to figure that one out. I got a little time left. But,
I got you. All
right. 3 kids all in that age bracket were yeah.
So, understand.
But well, we certainly hope that everybody has a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, whatever holiday you celebrate. We hope it's a great one, and we hope you will join us next year as we close out 2022. How will you ring in the new year?
In my underwear on the couch.
On the couch. There you go. Okay. All right. Well, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to all. Thanks to all the listeners. Look forward to talking to everyone in 2023. And just remember, we're just 2 middle-aged men in Cleveland.
2 Middle-Aged Men in Cleveland is sponsored by Westminster AV, custom audio-visual packages for all occasions.
Well, wow. I wanted to stay home. I said, well, finally, I just went with, believe me when I tell you, this is not a mistake that will be duplicated.